Financial support for the production of Issues in Education is provided by the Florida State University License Plate. Your FSU license plate supports scholarships for students who enrich and contribute to our communities. Special programs, gift certificates, and rebates for first-time buyers online at fsu.edu/mytag.
Coming up on Issues in Education, the evolving student campus, creating engagement communities and opportunities on a big college campus. Welcome to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, alongside my co-host, the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron. On a campus with 41,000 students, it could be very easy to think of yourself as just a number. But at FSU, an effort is being made to keep that from happening. The goal is to create smaller communities within the larger university that encourage engagement and leadership among the students. One method used is to develop physical locations that actually promote this kind of student-centered environment. To help explain how this concept works is FSU's Dean of Undergraduate Studies, Dr. Karen Laughlin. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, it's a great pleasure.
So, Karen, every university is focused on students.
True.
But what does it mean to be student-centered?
To me, this is a concept that cuts across the entire university. We think about it in terms of programming, of course, developing these kinds of programs that make the university seem small. But I think of it when we think about facilities and planning, that we're always thinking what would best serve our students. When we think about faculty research, we're thinking how does this really engage our students and attract the best students to the university and then help them become part of that mission. It's in everything that we do that we think, well, after all, we're a university. Our business is educating students, and we want them to get the best, the richest educational experience they can have at Florida State University.
Well, how does it help the students? What is so important about creating these kind of communities?
Well, I think one thing we're hearing when we talk to our undergraduate students is that they are very social. You know, we think they're a very virtual generation talking to each other by text, yes. But they want to get together. They want to socialize and they want to interact. And they want to have the opportunity for a meaningful exchange with each other in environments that foster that kind of exchange. And when we're so big, it's hard to do that unless you're really intentional about creating those environments where the students can come together and have that kind of dialogue and opportunity.
So how does physical space play into this?
Well, I think one of the things I've seen in a lot of the programs that I work with in my role as dean is that we have wonderful programming to create these smaller spaces. And we have some opportunities already, like our learning communities, that do house students in a building where they come together in a classroom. But then we have large groups of students, like our honor students, or our students who are competing for national fellowships, or those who want to do research, or the CARE program, where we're bringing in first-generation students. And there isn't a place for those students to call home. And that, to me, is really very important, because when they have that identification with home, it really engages them, it connects them to the campus, and it connects them to each other.
And it's not just like a living community. They're like the Bryan Hall Learning Community, that is a place where people live and they take some classes.
Right.
But this, like the building you're talking about for honors fellows and scholars, that's something different.
Exactly. Yes, we're not always talking about just residential space, but we're also talking about places where during the day or the evening into the night, when our students are alive and kicking, they have a place where they can go and they can interact with each other and they can be challenged by each other. And really, I think that peer involvement, we see how rich it is in the classroom, but it's very rich outside the classroom as well.
Well, let's talk about the Honors Fellows and Scholars House. You talked about talking with the students. I guess there were focus groups.
Right.
What were they saying they wanted?
You know, there were some things that surprised me when we went into these focus groups. One of them was that some of them talked about how these were very bright students that we'd pulled together because we were talking about an honors and scholars facility. They were saying that, you know, we feel kind of isolated intellectually. We don't feel that we have these places, these opportunities where we can challenge each other outside the classroom to really further our own thinking, to have cross-disciplinary interdisciplinary interactions where we're not just in a single department conversing. So there was that they wanted a place where they would feel less isolated and they could really come together as a group. They also really wanted to see Florida State University recognize and celebrate the academic achievements of our students. We have wonderful displays of other kinds of achievements, like in athletics, which is a big part of who we are. But I mean, I remember a student saying, you know, we want to feel that we are doing something awesome and that the university sees us as doing awesome things. And I don't think this was just bravado. I think it was saying, this makes a statement about FSU that we really treasure and want to celebrate what our bright students are doing.
So start to think about this notion of having a house, fellows and honors house. A house, this is a sense of community that we're building, this interaction. What else do you put in the house that makes it real?
Right. Well, one thing we talked about, which I was very interested in, was that we would house not only undergraduate programs for our best and brightest, and I'll come back to that in a sec, but also our graduate fellows. And the undergraduates lit up at this idea that they could actually be sitting there studying next to or having a cup of coffee next to the graduate fellows, because these are their most immediate role models. These are the people they want to become at the next stage of their careers. And so they find that a very stimulating prospect. And I'm told that the graduate students, although I don't work as directly with them, they felt very much the same way. These bright undergraduates are very stimulating colleagues to have around. But then within the building, we are thinking that it would be a home to the Graduate Fellow Society, to the Office of National Fellowships, which of course we know has been really successful in helping to groom our students to compete successfully for these nationally competitive awards. The Office of Undergraduate Research, which is more and more trying to foster this rich culture of research among our undergraduate students. And then of course the honors program is, you know, almost goes without saying, but is the oldest, most respected program of these three, and we want that also to provide students who come in through honors or who are drawn to do honors in the major with an environment that says, you know, you are important to the university, you are our stellar students, and we want to give you opportunities to rub elbows, to walk by the Office of National Fellowships and say, maybe I should think about applying for a Truman or a Rhodes. Maybe I should go talk to a faculty member about doing research. And the students who come in to talk about research are also saying, gosh, you know, maybe that research could become honors in the major. So there's a great synergy, I think, among those various programs. And then let me talk to a graduate student about what is it like to be in graduate school and to apply for a fellowship that will take me to a stellar graduate program.
And in addition to that, classrooms for honor students. Yeah. So the students are just naturally going to be coming in and out of this space because they're going to take classes there.
That's right. That's right. So if we have some honors classrooms where we really value those smaller classes for those highly engaged students, then they come out of class, they walk by the Office of National Fellowships and say, oh yeah, maybe I should drop in and talk about fellowship opportunities that might be possibilities for me. I think too, I hope for the faculty, from what I've heard, this is a very exciting thing from the faculty standpoint as well. We'll have faculty coming into the building teaching these classes. We'll have some gathering reception space where we'll be honoring our faculty who are engaging with these high achieving undergraduate students. And for them too, it's a way to celebrate, because every bright student doing a research project has a faculty mentor who is very instrumental in that student's accomplishment and development.
Where is this building where are you thinking about having this located?
One of the things I love about this concept is that it turns out that the space that seems perfect for it happens to be on Honors Way. I mean, it's serendipity, but it seems like it has to happen now because it must be fate has a hand in it that we ended up. So Honors Way, for those of us who don't know the campus map by all its street names, is actually on one side of Landis Green, the side that faces Montgomery and the Shores building. And so if it's on Honors Way, next to the newly renovated William Johnston Building, the Strozier Library is over to the north, I guess, and then Landis Hall, which has been the traditional residence hall for honors, will be also on the green. So it's just a perfect central location with a rich history.
So right there in the middle of campus,
yep,
celebrating and enabling
That's right.
Truly high-achieving students.
Exactly. I mean, what better advertisement for Florida State University and for our ideals, I think, in terms of undergraduate education.
What are some of the design features? Because there's been a design worked up for this.
Yes.
What are some of the design features that you most find intriguing?
Well, of course, there are the classrooms, which are great. There are the study spaces, which I envision as something, you know, very classy, very beautiful, very, very academic. But what I think the president and I are both really excited about is this rooftop terrace concept, because we want some green space. We want, and of course you'll have Landis right there. But when we've talked with the architects about this, they proposed a rooftop garden area that would be a little bit landscaped, where you could come, you could have receptions, students could be up there studying, and one of the coolest things I think is that they created what they called found space. So under the gable of the building, they've found about another 3,000 square feet of space that could be another gathering room, a reception room. I'm envisioning sliding glass doors, you know, that'll take you right out onto the terrace. I want to hang out there. I'd put my office up there if I could get away with it, but perhaps that's not what belongs in that space. But what a beautiful place to be, looking right out on Landis Green. I think it would just be a real selling point for the building and draw a lot of people there.
And behind the building, enough space for
yes,
a more contemplative garden.
Yes.
And so you put this all together. Let's compare it with where those offices are now.
Oh dear, you know, I love these programs dearly, and the people in them work very hard. But they are in the University Center, on a sort of cement block hallway. Honors, ONF, and undergraduate research are all in a little contiguous suite, where the conference room is about as big as a shoebox. And there is no place for students to gather. When we did these focus groups, the students said, you know, it's not a destination. I mean, nobody goes to the University Center unless they have to. And, you know, I understand that, because it's a trek to get there, and it doesn't feel like it's in the heart of the campus.
Well, this would definitely be in the heart.
You bet.
But another thing that sort of hits the heart is, okay, how much is this going to cost?
Well, yes, and of course nothing is cheap, and buildings are not. But one of the great things about this project is that it is really part of something that was already in the works. So we've already got a plan that will cover the cost of the infrastructure and the shell of the building. Now, we're still talking between $4 and $5.5 million, I would say, to finish this out the way we'd like to. If we can find a donor who would like to name the building, I believe that's a $4 million commitment. Am I right about that, Dr. Barron? But so that's what we're looking at, $4 to $5 million. It's not chicken feed, but I still think it's such a good investment for the university.
It's an incredible bargain to come up with something like this for $4 or $5 million, because the walls are up there, and it'll have this Gothic facade,
right,
and the inside of it this modern space, and those walls will go up anyway. The key here is whether we can do the interior space.
Right.
And then there's also, I guess, Aramark's doing some food on the ground floor anyway, so you're combining college students and food, which is always a good plan in any college student's mind.
Exactly. and apparently Aramark's plan also includes some gathering space down on that ground floor. So there would be an entrance off of Landis Green into the food area, and then the entrance for the Honors Fellows and Scholars House would be around the other side of the building, with this beautiful, what they've planned, kind of contemplative space, a little garden area. The concept I love is that, you know, there's the play that goes on Landis Green, tossing frisbees, sunbathing, all those things we know are part of the campus. Then you move into a little calmer space where you're sitting out having your cup of coffee or your sandwich or whatever. And then you go around the building, and you've got this beautiful kind of meditative garden area where I can certainly see students sitting out, studying, chatting with each other. And I think it's just a wonderful flow of activity and of energy for the students and the faculty and all of us, really, who would love to have this to brag about at Florida State.
It's wonderful.
Yep.
So right next door is Johnston.
Right.
And same Gothic facade, but 100-year-old building, now completely renovated. What happens when you walk inside?
You know, Johnston to me is an amazing, it's an amazing project. And of course, I'm particularly proud of the learning studio that's on the ground floor. That is something that we're really managing with Undergraduate Studies. We also have some of our advisors for the Exploratory Advising Center and our coaches who are working with some of our freshmen. But then there's this incredible facility for students to come to get tutoring. There are lots of quiet study spaces, lots of small group gathering and larger group gathering spaces, amazing technology, some of which I don't have a clue how to use, but that's just the way the world is going. And then, of course, on top of that, you have the floors with the various departmental offices, interior design, the computer and information, College of Communication and Information has, I think, a computer studio. There are lots of other facilities that are really displaying the incredible things that our students are doing, but also drawing students to that area of campus because there are classrooms and gathering spaces and faculty offices there too.
And this is a facility that's, you know, in use right now and people are using it.
For
so
sure.
What kind of feedback are you getting from it, from people who are actually using it on a daily basis?
From what I've heard, people are really, really positive. The students found those study spaces in a heartbeat. They are filling them up. It's all beautiful glass and very airy and very, there's a lot of light, which I love about the space. But I walked in yesterday to observe a class, and there was Latin tutoring on the wall, the glass wall of one of the little study rooms, and there was the tutor sitting there with a couple of students who were working on Latin. And who knew? I mean, there it was, so visible and so attractive for students. And the students are saying this is a really cool place to be.
So a cool place, mentoring, tutoring, advising. We know that FSU's made quite a bit of investment in this area over the last couple of years. And are we seeing that student-centered approach have impact on things like freshman retention rate?
Oh, absolutely. I think, as you know, we are really proud of FSU's first-year retention rate now. We're at 93%, and that's amazing. I mean, that puts us in the top 20 public universities in the country. That's the students who come back from freshman to sophomore. But that's feeding right into graduation rates. It's feeding into just the overall engagement. And I think what has helped us in that improvement has been these efforts to create smaller communities and also to promote this culture of academic engagement.
You're going to be doing that also with the Veterans Center as well. That was recently announced at the end of October, and the show is debuting on December 7th, which everybody always associates with veterans.
Right.
You know, what's going to be housed in this Veterans Center? Is that going to be a similar situation?
Well, I think from what I understand, the Veterans Center is really bringing together, again, some of the strengths of the university, like the World War II Institute is a wonderful thing that we have that's unique at Florida State, but then you put it alongside the ROTC, all kinds of services for veterans, and again, I think this is what we do well at FSU, is we identify these subpopulations of students who will really benefit from having some extra support, some extra recognition, some encouragement, and some opportunity to come together and share in ways that are particularly relevant to them. So this seems to me just a natural step for Florida State. And of course, at this time, with so many people returning from serving overseas or wherever they might have been posted, it's an important thing to be doing.
I have one last question. Is this a new trend that people are doing, or is this something that's the creating environments like this, or is this something that's been more long-term?
Well, in one way, I like to think that what we're doing is just building on what FSU has always done really well. You know, we are a traditional campus, and to me, that's a positive thing. You know, we've got a gorgeous campus. We've got a culture of students coming, generally the traditional age, 18 to 22-year-olds, with many others now joining us as well. We are a residential campus, and at the same time, now we're just enhancing that culture and enriching it in all kinds of ways.
Thank you very much. We've been talking about creating student-centered environments. When we come back, Dr. Barron and I will talk one-on-one about more issues in education. Welcome back to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, talking with Dr. Eric Barron, the president of the Florida State University. Dr. Barron, we've been talking about student-centered environments in this show, and you've been talking about this since you interviewed for the president's position. Why do you feel it's so important?
Well, first of all, students and helping them be successful, that's what we do. But we also, and there are all sorts of things, benchmarks that we would like to hit. The more people you retain as a freshman, the more people you graduate, not only is that better for the student, it even saves the taxpayer dollars. So all these things make sense. But I like to think of it this way. If you have a student that's engaged in worthwhile activities, that's good for them. But it also means they're with other students that are equally engaged in worthwhile activities. So you get a set of friends, they're all encouraging you to be successful because you're partners in that success. So you end up with students that are happier, and they do better, and they can get better jobs. So this is a way to change the student environment, particularly in a big university. I like to think of it as creating the community, that sense of community of a small liberal arts college that so many parents are willing to pay a fortune for. But doing that at FSU and giving them the opportunities of a powerful research and creative university, something that small school that's charging so much can't do. So it's like beating them at one game and adding to it the game that they excel at.
Now, you had success in creating these kind of programs when you were a dean at Penn State. How did it work there? What kind of reactions did the students have to those spaces?
You know, I knew that my college didn't have a lot of permanent funds, and becoming a dean and an inside candidate, I wasn't going to get a lot of funds. So I said I wanted to demolish the ground floor of a large building, one-time cost, and create a student-centered environment. So I put freshman seminar classrooms and that I knew would bring every freshman into the college into that ground floor. And next to it I put a student center, and the student center had all the advisors and tutors. It also had a living room, essentially, for our students, a computer area where students could work. And then we put in residence, it was a science and engineering college, we put a writers in residence that helped students, mathematician in residence, chemist in residence, all these people that we would tell our students, we're going to make you take tough math classes, we're going to make you take tough chemistry classes, we're also going to help you be successful. And then the freshman faculty for the first year seminars would do things that would mean the students had to go into the student center. They're right next door. Mm-hmm. And so you created this sense of camaraderie and this culture of knowing that all those people were there to help you, and you got used to having them help you.
And what did the students think about those?
It became sort of the place in the college very quickly. And my president at the time told every other dean, you must go see what Eric built in this building, because this is the way we should be thinking as a university. But to me, it's just taking, and I think you heard Dr. Laughlin say it, we're taking the natural tendencies of Florida State, this friendly, family-oriented, feel-at-home campus, which is so large, and all these wonderful programs that have been developing over time here, and we're taking it to the next level just because we have this wonderful foundation to build upon. And a lot of times I think a president is chief sponge. You soak in all the things that are going on, and then you go and try to put that into some action, building upon what you already have. Florida State's the first place I've been to where I all of a sudden realized that what I did at a college level at Penn State could be done at a university level, because the faculty here have built so many of the pieces already.
The Florida legislative session will be kicking off in January, a little earlier than it normally does. Are you concerned with what's going to be happening with the budget this year, and what's your biggest concern?
Well, a number of the projections are already that there'll be a deficit. Higher education is on the priority list, but it's not on the highest priority list. And so this means you're always vulnerable to taking another cut. We've had cuts 5 years in a row, and last year we lost $17 million. We're running out of places to find the money, and so that's tough. So we have to work hard to state our case and make sure people understand just how important we are to the state, and also how wisely we spend money. There's one thing that I loved about the U.S. News and World Report, and that is that if you look at all the public universities, the top 100, we're ranked 46. There are 49 universities that have more money than we do, but are ranked behind us in the rankings. There's not a single university in that ranking of public universities that has less money than we have that's ranked in front of us. This makes us one of the most efficient and effective universities, public universities in this country. So it's that type of argument that we have to present. Look how wisely we spend taxpayer dollars. You give us $1 and we translate that into a top 50 university. Imagine if we had just a little bit more money, what we could translate that to.
Last year you started Advocate for Florida State, a website to help spread the word about FSU and legislative priorities. Are you going to be doing that again this year? We are.
This will become a fixture. One of the things I discovered was when I said, well, we've got to tell our alumni about this, I think they're going to be very unhappy about this legislation or that, or we really need them to support what someone has proposed. And I discovered we couldn't contact nearly as many people as I thought we could. And so this is a way for us to build a database of names of friends and alumni of FSU and let them know something is going on and activate them to help us. It worked very effectively.
And that's activateforfloridastate.fsu.edu.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's our time for now. Please join us again next month for more Issues in Education. You can watch the premiere episode of Issues in Education the first Wednesday of every month at 7:30 p.m. That means you can see the next new episode on Wednesday, January 4th, 2012 on WFSU-TV. Join us as we discuss the latest developments in higher education happening around the state and across the country. If you have questions you would like us to address on this program, you can email us at issues@wfsu.org. Again, that's issues@wfsu.org. If you would like to see past episodes of Issues in Education, head to the President's website at president.fsu.edu. I'm Suzanne Smith with the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron, for Issues in Education.
Financial support for the production of Issues in Education is provided by the Florida State University License Plate. Your FSU license plate supports scholarships for students who enrich and contribute to our communities. Special programs, gift certificates, and rebates for first-time buyers online at fsu.edu/mytag.